If people can't, you have somebody who has a literacy problem or just a print blindness, or they're blind, any reason they can't read text very well, and they fall asleep and they get up and they get off on a train in the wrong place and they can't read, they could go over to any of the information terminals and have it would be able to automatically adapt to them and provide information in a form they could understand so they could recover and find their way back. Or it would provide assistance on demand. So one of the other things the infrastructure can do is to make it so that anywhere at any time you can get 10 seconds of help. We already have one in place now. It's called VizWiz. And what you can do is you can just take your phone, your iPhone or something. If you have problems with something, you take a picture, you describe what help you want, and then you offer something like a nickel. Instantly it goes up, and there's all these people who are just sitting up there on this mechanism. It's an infrastructure that's set up for people who just do things for hire or for volunteers. Some people, you can just put it up there and see if somebody will do it for free. One example was a person came to a restroom and they didn't know which is the men's and the ladies' room. So they just took a picture and said, which is the men's room? And they offered a nickel, and within 60 seconds they got 4 answers. And 3 said the room on the left, and 1 said the room on the right. And so either somebody was mistaken or somebody was just having fun. It doesn't matter. They paid the nickel to the first person and went into the one on the left. But think of this for somebody who gets off at the wrong bus stop and just says, where am I? And, you have GPS in your phone, and it's really nice, but they have a cognitive disability. What a GPS gives you is your latitude or longitude, or it tells you you're on a street, and you have no idea where that is. So you just punch a button and you say, I'm trying to get to so-and-so, where am I? And somebody comes on and says, get on the bus, watch for a bus that says 12, and get on it, and get off at such and such a place, and you'll be back where you're trying to get to. So that kind of thing, on, off, just 10 seconds, 15 seconds of somebody's time, anytime you need it. These kinds of capabilities. The ability to move around between classes, and every computer will adapt to you, as we saw. The ability to go into a job interview and not have the employer thinking, if I hire this person, what am I going to have to do to my systems? I hired somebody once before who had a visual impairment, and my IT department, man, it took them 3 weeks and they still couldn't figure it out. And then they had security. They said, we messed up the security. And instead of that, that you can hire somebody. The person says, just hire me. I can come in. I'll be able to work because we have the cloud services, and the system will adapt, and I'll be able to use it. So these kinds of capabilities. What if we have countries who don't have any AT of their own, or they only have a couple types of AT? Now they could localize AT, but it's just not available. So what if there's this cloud of open source AT that's all easily localizable? And so all of a sudden, overnight, a country could have some people sit down, localize it to their language, and they would have a full range of different types of assistive technology that would be available to any time any of their citizens or visitors came to a computer. The accessibility they needed would be on that computer. And it would have a nice, easy infrastructure through the wizard. They don't have people in their country to figure out how to fit and evaluate all these people. But there would be this wizard on the internet that would sit down with someone, walk them through, and figure out the kinds of things they needed, and then provide it to them. This kind of a capability would allow us to be able to really begin to outreach and to provide accessibility in countries. What if in the future people could just wear a ring, and when they walked up to any device or rolled up to any device, they could just touch that ring to it, and it would change into the form they could use. For an elder, it might make things simpler or in larger text. They could walk up to a computer, touch it, and it would be simpler. They could walk up to a phone, touch it. They could say, can I borrow your phone? Take your smartphone that they couldn't figure out how to use in a month of Sundays. They just touch it, and suddenly it's a very simple phone for them. A thermostat. How many people, we used to have thermostats, and they were easy to use. You know, you changed it up to get hotter, you changed it down to get colder, and now today you go to the thermostats, and they look like, you know, like a control system for a space launch. And you say, can I put in a simple thermostat? And they say, no, you can't, because this is part of the HVAC system for our building, and you can't change it. So you have elders in apartments, and the thermostats are just beyond them. But they could come up, and the thermostat would look this nice fancy way for all of us who like nice fancy things. But for the rest of the population, they'd touch it, and it would change into hotter, colder. Simple. And large enough that they could see it, or it would say, you touch it and it would just say, larger on the left, hotter on the left, colder on the right, or something if you couldn't see that would be something that you'd be able to use it. A friend of mine who's blind, and he went to look for apartments, and he said, you know, before I even show up in the apartments, there's two things I know I won't be able to even use. I said, really, what? And he said, the thermostat and the oven. In any modern apartment, both the thermostat and the oven are these touch panel things. And he said, I can't use them, and I can't replace them. I said, well, what about the microwave oven? And he says, oh, that's easy. I could just get a different one. But they don't let me replace the thermostat. And I can't afford to replace the oven. Have you ever looked at what these modern ovens and things, you know, they're thousands of dollars. The ability to be able to have people come up and be able to touch and be able to have an oven change. We have elders who their stove breaks, and you can't, you know, you take the broken stove out and they're clinging onto it and they're dragging them behind because they won't let go of it, because they know you're going to put a stove in there. They have no idea how to operate the oven. And even if they can see and don't have a disability, they're just so complex today. Can you find an oven that's just a simple one? Clothes washers, TV controls, all of these kinds of things. We have the ability to make it so that you could go between houses, between homes, into hotels, and the TV would operate the same way. Instead of like it is now, where you go from your upstairs TV to the downstairs TV, and you have to pick up the control and figure out, or you buy a new TV and you spend the first 20 minutes staring at the remote control trying to figure out how to just do the simple things that you knew how to do on the last one. I have a control that I've used for a long time, and I still, every time I want to do something besides just change the channel or the volume, I have to stare at it and try and figure out where the controls are. So we really need to be doing that. We have the ability to simplify, to provide access solutions for all, and for emerging technologies. And I'm going to just quickly go through the components for the technical types and talk about how this thing would be built. But we won't try to dive into it in any great detail. But there's three key goals, and the components are based around the three key goals. So all of the pieces either do one of these three things. First of all, they provide a way for people to find out about and to determine what would help them, and then to store that information in the cloud or on a USB stick for further use. So the first thing is something that really helps them to figure out what it was in all of this range of all these technologies. The second thing is the ability to use that stored information to access the access features they need basically wherever they need them. So figure it out, be able to cause anything to change. And the third one is a tool and infrastructure to allow lots of developers and vendors to get into the game. We're actually, an AT vendor the other day told me that what we can look forward to is fewer and fewer larger and larger AT vendors. That's the trend we're seeing. And in fact, when you do that, you'll see fewer and fewer variations and types, because companies don't like to have a whole bunch of different things. It makes it confusing for customers. You actually sell more if you have fewer products. That's an easier kind of a thing to do. And so this would give us something like we have for the iPhone or Android, where you have an environment that's really easy to create accessibility applications, and different ones and new ones for different populations. And then it's really easy to get these things up to market and get them out to people so that we have them, so that you can get this information out. So that you could have researchers, you can have consumers, you can have practitioners, friends, create a solution that doesn't exist and have it available instantly all over the world in a month. That kind of providing more options. It reduces the cost to develop and therefore makes the whole thing a lot easier. The first one, a way to determine what you can use. We first of all talk about an awareness program. People just don't know about the stuff, so we have to do that. We talk about a usability wizard, something that makes it really easy for people to figure out what's going to work for them. A way of storing this stuff away in a private preference profile that is secure. And then a matchmaker, something that says, here are all of the different kinds of things. I know with this profile, I can look at all of the hundreds of different types, and I can narrow it down to those kinds of things that would help you. And then a safe source, a place that's safe for you to go and download these from. We're now having situations where, for example, on Android Marketplace, somebody went up, downloaded something, and they found that it instantly took all their personal information and sent it to China. So we need to have places, if we're going to have lots and lots of developers, we have to have a place that you can get this from. For the second one, which is to use it anywhere, again, a place that you can use your preferences. But there's a real trick here. How do I tell this device to go get my preferences and change it without telling this device who I am? Okay? So we need to have a way that people with disabilities can get things to change to match their personal preferences without them having to give up their personal identity each time they do everything. And there's ways of doing that, and we need to set that up so that's available. Something that allows us to, anywhere I go to get this, and anything to automatically change to what we need, and anything that doesn't have captions or descriptions that we needed to automatically get those, and the ability to get assistance on demand wherever we are. So these are all pieces that we put in place. And then finally, when we do this, people also say, so you think the cloud is going to be the answer to everything? And the answer is no. This infrastructure is both cloud-based and PC-based, USB stick-based. It's all of the different, the infrastructure actually supports all the different delivery mechanisms. And then we want tools that make it easy to develop, for developers to create new solutions and make them available. So in summary, where technology is going, many people with disabilities and aging can't currently follow. Yet broadband is becoming critical, so we need to be able to make it so that they can. Governments can't currently afford to keep all the solutions and provide access to all of them, and we need to figure out how to do that because the private sector isn't able to do it either. So we need to find some mechanism that's going to allow us to reach all these people. So we really need a paradigm shift. We need to be able to provide infrastructure, awareness, tools, and research to be able to actually change the way we provide accessibility in an entirely different way. We have an opportunity, we have an unprecedented opportunity to change accessibility in some very fundamental ways, to make it cost less to develop and deploy, to allow it to reach more people than the 15% that we currently now reach, and to serve disability and aging groups that we currently now can't address.